Good morning, everybody. Pleasure to welcome you all here wearing my hat as chair of Big Society Capital. Somebody over coffee asked me how it was that someone who spent all their life in banking, trading and insurance ended up being chair of Big Society Capital. And I explained that actually it was much of my business experience that informed my approach to philanthropy, which is to say that I was and remain very interested in being effective as a donor and wanting to understand what makes for effective charities in terms of their impact on their beneficiaries. So as some of you may know, I became a founding trustee of an organization called New Philanthropy Capital about 12 years ago, which is a charity itself, but it's focused on charitable effectiveness and sharing that best practice. And that led me in turn into an introduction to social investment or social finance through somebody called John Kingston, who in those days was working with CAF Venturesome, Charity State Foundation, Venturesome, who came along to me and said, I have an idea that if you put together a pool of funding to provide loans to charities, across that portfolio, if it's properly constructed, you'll see a relatively low loss experience. And I said, no, I'm sure you can't do that. And he said, well, let's do it together and learn. So I funded, or helped fund, I was one of the funders of that pool of loans. And indeed, the loss experience was quite low. So from my point of view as a philanthropist, making a scarce resource, which is my money, go further, I found that really quite interesting. And that sort of kicked me off on this path to learn more about ways in which repayable funding might be used in the third sector to the benefit of both those charities and to me as a donor. And that in turn, long story short, led me to take on the role of Big Society Capital. Why? Well, because Big Society Capital's mission is to drive social change through supporting and growing this market for social finance here in the UK. We do that in two ways. We do it as acting as a market champion, and secondly, we do it by providing capital as an investor. As an investor, in fact, since Big Society Capital was set up just over 3 years ago, we have made commitments together with our co-investors of around £370 million as of the 30th of June this year. And those are investments into a range of social investment funds, some general, some specialized, investments in social impact bonds, investments in social banks, in charity bonds, and investments in what I'll call infrastructure organizations like Clearly So, which is a social angel network, finding investors to come into these kinds of situations, and indeed the social stock exchange, where we have been a supporter. But I think our role as market champion actually is more important than our role as an investor, and that's where we seek to build understanding at large of the role that this repayable funding, this social investment can play. We have worked to create a more favorable environment for social investment. Indeed, we were the primary advocates that led to the introduction of social investment tax relief to encourage investment to flow into the field. We spent a lot of time encouraging mainstream investors to become social investors and explaining why and how they might do that. And finally, we spent a lot of time working to increase the understanding of charities and social enterprises about the ways in which they might be able to make use of social investment. So we're very pleased to be part of this event today in partnership with ALIA and Trustees Unlimited, and with the support, as you said, Timothy, from the London Stock Exchange. And from my point of view, I'd like to sort of reinforce what Tim said, which is that I very much like this to be a conversation. So I know we're going to be talking to you in the next sort of 15, 20 minutes, but then it would be great to be able to open it up and get your thoughts, concerns, questions, and input. We are going to hear from 4 other very distinct social investors about their experience and perspectives. And I think it's always great to get some sort of concrete examples of the way in which this space is starting to develop. It, of course, is not a panacea or a silver bullet which will solve all of the funding challenges of the charitable sector. This is, although socially motivated and with express social impact intent, it is repayable finance, and the fact is that is not applicable for many charities whose business model will be funded by grants or by donations. However, what we're seeing across the piece is a significant increase in the use of social investment by a range of organizations addressing key social issues, from access to property, for example, to help address homelessness, to interventions around children on the edge of care. And you know, my view as a philanthropist and indeed as a trustee of a number of organizations is that we will continue to see this market develop. And I have a strong conviction that the intelligent use of what I'll call private capital to help grow and scale interventions that work will become a key part of this landscape as we go forward. So, thank you.